Welcome back to another episode of our Eagle Perspective podcast. I'm Mike Siciliano, Dean of Students of the Upper School. I'm joined today by our middle school leadership team, two of the most blessed and amazing people around, our principal, Todd Deveau. Todd, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And our assistant principal, Kristi Ellis. And I always have to be careful around you because we get really sarcastic together really fast.
It's true.
So we'll try to keep it reasonable today so people don't change the...
Okay.
So before we get going too much here, I mean, Kristi, some people might think you just really love Texas.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's a great place.
But today is also Spirit Week. That's why you're all
this
decked out
isn't
in the
my
Texas
normal,
gear.
but I do.
Maybe, yeah, but
This
is how we roll in the middle school.
Yeah. So it's what, Country Western Day today, I think,
It's
is part of it.
country versus country club.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes, I left my
Okay.
clubs at home today, but
But that's rare.
yeah, it is.
Anyway, so that's good. I really like
Thank
it.
you.
Maybe you both could talk a little bit first about what brought you to Santa Fe and how long you've been here.
Well, I can bring on the sarcasm too.
Well,
So,
I mean, that
I'm
is
just saying,
true. I mean, yeah.
I am a
You have,
middle
to be a
school.
little,
that's-
you have to be a little spicy to be in the middle school.
Yeah, I was going to say,
right?
it's sort of a requirement for the job, I feel like, in middle school. So,
I came here 10 years ago from Houston, Texas. My wife always said that she would live in one of three places, either Florida, Orlando area specifically, or Houston, or Southern California. So when this opportunity came about, I said, Ruthie, why don't you go ahead and look online and see what you think? So she Googled it and she looked up, Solana Beach. She looked up Santa Fe Christian. She started watching videos, and I looked over and I saw that she was crying, and I was like, okay, well, we're not going to Solana Beach, right? No, but she actually said, this is where I want my kids to go to school.
wow.
And I was just sold from that point on. Besides, the crazy interviewing process across the country, but we've been blessed to be here ever since.
Well, we're blessed to have you, and
Thank you.
And having gotten to be around both your kids, one of whom is still coaching with us now
Sure
as a
is.
graduate. But they're both incredible.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
You've done an awesome job. You're gonna have to tell me your tricks on that, but that's another podcast.
Yeah, have them go to Santa Fe Christian.
Okay, good.
check.
We've
That's
started
the
well.
difference.
Yeah, and then Kristi, I know we've done this a couple times before, but just because some people are listening or watching for the first time, how about yourself?
So I came to Santa Fe. I've been working with Todd in this capacity since 2019, but joined the faculty in 2017 in a really part-time capacity. And then my kids have been here. My oldest came in 2019 as a freshman in the upper school, and then I brought the other two in middle school once I saw the magic that was happening there. So.
Yeah, awesome. And also three tremendous kids that I've gotten to
Thanks.
be around a little bit. Current captain of the cheer team, if I do say so.
Babysitter extraordinaire.
I wasn't going to go there,
You've
but
got a
she,
few. I know
she-
you've got a
Well,
few.
she is the first. She is kind of the first one, though. But she's busy a lot. If I could lodge a complaint, I mean,
I'll do my best.
Like the most rejection I have in life is from your daughter when we ask her to babysit. Like that is all of my resiliency right now is just from that interaction over the last couple of years. But
we do what we
This
can
is
to
where
grow
the
you, Mike.
sarcasm comes in.
but she is fantastic. So, look, I always say as an upper school person how grateful I am for you two in the middle school because I think it's probably a common joke you hear a lot. I mean, middle school is a very interesting time in the lives of. I mean, you get these little sixth graders that really are. I mean, they look little sometimes, right? I mean, part of what's interesting is actually the disparity in how they look.
Oh, totally.
But you have some little ones, and then you graduate them to the upper school when they're now young, getting close to young adults, really. Yeah. So it's a fascinating time. I'd love to start with, what is it that you're hoping for when you get a young sixth grader that by the time they're a eighth grader graduating, they've gained or they've been changed?
It's a great question.
That is.
I think the most important thing is that they develop their identity in Christ. That's the most important thing. But the reality is, by eighth grade, that's not going to be fully formed.
Sure.
But we're making great progress, through through amazing teachers, through our programs, through our retreats. Kids just got back from Catalina Island, our eighth graders, and just the stories that I'm hearing about them just, going up to the cross in tears, just wrestling with God. And it's just so it's so wonderful for them to have that opportunity. I mean, so that's the most important thing. Yes, of course, we're going to be teaching them academics too. We're going to teach them math and science and English and history. But really, it's the mentorship of the teachers that pouring into them and developing their identity in Christ. That's really what it's all about. So.
I totally agree. And I think back to even being in middle school myself, and I think forming really amazing relationships, trusting the teachers that they have in their lives is really important, and just helps their identity formation as they go forward. And I think just security. Like, I want students to graduate out of our middle school feeling secure as you can when you're 13, because it can be a pretty disruptive time. I was just thinking of the song Bridge Over Troubled Water. And that's kind of what middle school is.
So Todd's words brought that out in
They
you?
did. They
That's
made me
Todd is
have the
impressive.
song going in my head.
We're a bridge.
We're a bridge over troubled water. So I just think, yes, kids who are connected with the adults in their lives, because the adults that we have in our middle school are so special, and kids who are beginning to understand what they have to offer is a huge part of middle school. And so we do that in a number of ways that we can talk about later. But
I mean, the fact that you use the word security, I mean, I think, I'll speak for myself, but I think a lot of people would associate middle school with insecurity.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
It's just ripe for, so much is changing with yourself, around you, your friends. I feel like, gosh, every other month it's like, something's massively different in middle school. So what are the things you do to help kind of nurture that feeling of security?
Well, our faculty is like the number one thing in our partnerships with parents. I think our goal is to reflect back to them the goodness that they have to offer, and to pull forward things that, that I'm struggling here with the words. So it's a big question.
It is. I think that programs like our advisory program that are closer to one-on-one, and our advisory program has, anywhere from 11 to 14 kids per advisory. It's single gender. So like our 6th grade boys will have a male faculty member that they work with on a daily basis, 4 days a week. And they're talking about, deep questions, and they're talking about their identity. So, I think that security comes from having an adult advocate that that every child knows that they can trust, to guide them and help them navigate this, tumultuous time. And I would, in addition to that, I'd say it's the partnership with parents. We just left a 6th grade coffee, and these parents, a lot of them have never had a 6th grader before. We've had 25 years of them. So, we partner with them to walk alongside and help them navigate and communicate with their kids as they go through this period. Yeah. And goodness, you mentioned the difference between, these little 6th graders and these big 8th graders. I mean, every year I go to the 5th grade promotion. So these little 5th graders, I promote them to 6th grade, and then I go to the 8th grade graduation, and then I'm going to the senior. It is unbelievable, the transformation that takes place, just developmentally, just for their own growth. But what happens in the classroom here at this school with these teachers and these mentors and these retreat experiences and mission experiences really transforms them just to the depths of their soul. So we're just shooting for a little bit of security because we know how challenging it can
Security-ish.
be. But the goal
Secure-ish by the time they leave.
The goal is growth in security.
Yeah, right.
You won't find a single 8th grade secure individual, but we're shooting for growth.
Yeah.
And we do that pretty well and in a lot of different ways.
And our electives too. We have how many?
We have over 40
something electives.
distinct electives, like 75 different sections of electives in the middle school alone.
Because you have some pretty unique and cool ones in the middle school. Can you share?
We have forensics.
Yeah.
So if
forensic
a
science.
middle schooler ever asks you for a strand of your hair, that's
So, I feel like I've not tapped into that enough in the upper school. Like if we have, a caper, or a hey, someone did it. Like, could I come to
paper.
forensics?
Yes.
You could.
And be like,
Real
hey,
world
we're trying
applicability.
to solve the mystery
We're
of the
always
the
looking for
missing
capers.
whatever. And that,
Most
we
of them
should do
happen
that.
already, so, yeah.
Anyway, sidebar.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
forensic science. We have. I'll just go sort of through different fields, sort of genres of electives. But like in science, we have engineering, we have forensic science, we have marine biology, which is a big favorite. In the arts, we have a million broadcast, painting, drawing, sculptures new this year.
Wow.
We have acting, improv theater, director's workshop.
Current
in
events.
the current events, the leadership opportunities in terms of student council, as well as new this year. It hasn't happened yet. It's going to be, I think, next quarter is do-it-yourself leadership. So it's going to be sort of a combination of service and outreach for our community, but also a do-it-yourself, almost like a wood shop type thing.
Cool.
So Mr. Trumbull is heading that up. A few new ones also that he's come up with that he's teaching this year are really exciting. It's sort of a trio that's all mixed up. So any two of these, so it would be entrepreneurship, marketing, and personal finance.
Wow.
So
Cool.
any two of those is going to be paired up in 3 different offerings. So it's really cool. Then there's so many more. I mean, we have football, we have basketball, we have co-ed volleyball. We have beach games. We have girls' PE games,
Espanol,
boys'
Francais.
PE games, Spanish, French. Math
Band.
problem solving is really popular
Yeah,
for our
that's a big
kids
one,
that are
yeah.
super into math. Mr. Maxon just helps them just dive really deep into mathematics and problem solving.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a lot.
can I take the do-it-yourself one?
I know.
Yes, come on it.
And I'll take the
I'm
finance
embarrassed
one.
to say there's probably some skills. I have a toilet that runs right now. Like, would I learn how to fix that in that class? Or if not,
Potentially.
could I have one of the kids just come fix it for
Change
We
me?
can do
tire.
that. We can
Okay.
do that for you. Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That will save me some cash.
Yeah.
So,
and there are many more.
Yeah.
that I just haven't mentioned.
and lots of ways for kids to sort of find out, a little bit about their identity, the way the skills that they're are inherent to them, or to develop some new ones
Yeah.
that give them a little bit of confidence. And so that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It's a
We
good time
really-
of discovery.
Discovery, yeah, it's exploration. It's seeing what they love, and just as important, seeing what they really don't like.
Yeah.
So that's part of the identity formation.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the trips. You've already mentioned the retreat at 8th grade to Catalina, for example. I know there's some trip opportunities as well in the middle school. I think your 7th graders go to Tucson.
They sure do.
We
I've heard a
do.
lot. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that experience, but I know that's pretty transformative. And we send a group of seniors actually to help
Yeah.
lead that because they loved it so much as 7th graders. But
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that experience.
Tucson is an unbelievable experience, and it's funny. I think you were doing a podcast with Global Ministry earlier, and so that's much more exotic, like Nepal, and we're like, we're going to Tucson.
We talked to K-12 in our
Okay.
thing, just so you know.
It's just a funny thing when people go, you're going on a mission trip to an outreach service trip to Tucson, and Tucson is one of the cities in the United States with some of the largest needs, one of the largest homeless populations. They have a huge refugee and immigration population there. And so we get to take these 12-year-olds to Tucson to do work projects all over the city. Some of them is direct ministry with kids who are up for adoption. It is painting chapels that need to be painted. We do all kinds of incredible work. And I always wish I could just package it for parents that they could see one day in Tucson, because we see our kids in the most spectacular light that we get to see them in all year, because they get to be independent. They are doing something that's like in their core. They're doing hard work, a lot of times labor-intensive work that as a parent, you're like, oh, I couldn't even get you to unload the dishwasher, but you can do this, you could do this amazing thing. So it's a really special time. It's also an opportunity for them to open their eyes a lot wider, being in North County, and I sort of call it like the Frappuccino life. We live a cozy life here. We're super blessed to have that, but exposure to God's people in other spaces is incredible. And so we're so thankful to offer that opportunity to them. The worship is off the chain at night with the kids, and it's truly transformative. It's wild. It's pretty wild.
I mean, that's just, I describe everything in the middle school as wild.
Wow. It's wild 2.0. We come back pretty tired. But it's very, very special. So, yeah, that's Tucson.
It's truly faith in action. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what that's what it's all about. And these kids have never experienced anything like it.
Yeah.
And they truly come home transformed. And I would argue to say the adults come back just
Yeah.
as transformed.
Now I'll second that from talking with them.
And the seniors as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember hearing back from many parents of the seniors because they were in my son's class, just saying that this experience really changed, my daughter and my son's life,
Yeah.
and that they didn't want to come home from Tucson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't in 4-star
Right.
hotels.
Totally. Yeah.
But it may have set the rest of this young lady's life,
Yeah.
having had that experience, which is awesome.
Yeah. That's pretty neat.
I think our seniors are such an important part of it. And it was an ad a couple of years ago.
3, 4,
I
maybe.
think it might be 5 or 6 years ago.
It's
now.
already
Yeah.
getting that far out. We really don't have the power as adults, but the mentorship of our older kids to our younger kids is really
Yeah.
the most spectacular piece. And we think we get our kids, but we don't. We're getting older, oldish, and the seniors do. They get it. And so having them in the vans, bombing around Tucson, seeing them work through relationship things that happen while we're, there's all these internal things that have a growth opportunity while we're
Yeah.
there as kids are working side by side and sleeping side by side. And our seniors enter into that in a really special way. So that has been an incredible piece. We really could not do the trip in the same way without our senior kids.
Yeah, I think what's cool for me to see, because I've never been on the Tucson trip.
Well, you're welcome. March 20,
Thanks. Yeah.
19th. Please
Well,
mark your
is it-
calendar.
I did
You
get
heard
to go
it
to
here.
DC last year, which of course, a more traditional eighth
Sure.
grade experience. That DC trip was
Amazing.
awesome, which I had,
It sure is,
it
yeah.
was so much fun. I mean, they just jam packed that schedule. Like, I will say that
Unbelievable.
Oh, where it's like, it's 9:30, and we're assuming we're going back to the hotel, and the tour company's like, gosh, we could probably swing by Iwo Jima for 15 minutes if we get. I'm just like, wow, all right, we're seeing it all, which is awesome. But I will say on the Tucson trip, those relationships last between the seniors and the 7th graders to where 4 or 5 years later, I have juniors and seniors that are talking about the senior that was there for them when they were on their 7th grade trip. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that whole thing
really neat.
is pretty neat. You guys also do some unique fun things in the middle school. Various like Spirit Weeks. I should mention Spirit Week because it is technically a Spirit Week right now. But you also have, I know you have like a bunch of games, crazy silly games that
We
you guys
do.
play at various times, and it's just fun.
School needs to be fun.
Yeah.
That's really what it's all about. We want kids to want to come to school, and they do, generally speaking. We front load a lot of it. We normally would rent out the Wave Water Park and have the kids all, we
Yep.
just take it over and they have a great time. We had bad weather this time. Imagine that, the one day of the year.
Yeah.
Of course, it always hits.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But really, as much as possible, we want our students to sort of run the middle school, and that's the leadership opportunity in creating Christ-like leaders.
Yeah.
So we have large groups of students, whether that's through student council or our chapel leadership team as well, that get together and plan a lot of different, just fun events, and that could be Pancake Day. We had what did we have, like
Irish French toast day.
Yeah,
it happened,
right.
French
Yeah.
Toast Day happened on St. Patrick's
Yeah,
Day,
right.
so we called that our Irish French Toast
Yeah, that's
Day.
been a running joke for a couple years.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was good.
That brings in the men of SFC to come and just,
I think you guys learned some valuable lessons, if I remember, about the pancakes and the French toast. And
Make sure we drop them by your office.
yeah, that was, I'm glad. I just want to make sure
Okay.
that has sunk in.
yeah, we
easier
got the
this
message.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, we'll bring you some.
Yeah, thank you.
So-
We do in the spring something called it's Community Day. That's the normal name for it, but it's Shisha Bally Hoorah.
Of course
it's
it is.
the girls.
Yeah,
And
have
Bob
never-
Aruski.
Yeah, and
And
Bob
Babaruski is the
Yeah.
boys, and it's totally crazy and weird and wonderful. And what Todd said about we want the middle school to be fun, that's part of the identity thing. When kids get into middle school, I think there's an automatic, like, I suddenly need to be cool. And none of the faculty, no offense to the fact, like we're not cool.
Yeah, none taken, by the way. I mean,
Well, in the upper school, you guys are cool.
Oh no, we're not. No, we're not cool either. In the
But
middle
it's just
school.
great.
In
It's
upper
so
school.
wonderful to be able to show them they can still have a really fun time.
Yeah.
And then I'm sort of metaphorical, but the fun is that's what rolls the window down for them. And then all the academics and the spiritual formation, mentorship comes in. If they're not having fun and they're not looking forward to school,
Window stays up.
I mean, what in the world? I wouldn't want to work here.
Yeah.
Would you?
Fun's important.
Yeah.
It's a big piece of who we
we're
are.
still going to do, we're still a school. We're still going to take
Sure.
care of business and,
Yeah.
take care of the academics and do well on map tests and everything else. But, what helps that is to make it a really enjoyable environment that kids want to come to, and frankly, that teachers want to come to.
Yeah, and I cut you off earlier because I was so focused on my own receiving of the
toast.
French toast. But
I
you
see.
mentioned even parents, like, the dads come in and,
Yes.
and cook on those days and some of that community building, which
They
is
do.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, they cook like over 1,000 pancakes and 1,000 pieces of French toast, and they have a great time. Not to mention, all they do for everybody, cooking burgers for everybody and such. So
Yeah, it's awesome.
It smells so good too.
yeah, it does.
It smells like
It's
camp.
very sticky though.
Yeah, well,
It's middle school, though.
I mean, as long as what sticks is that you deliver some to the high school, I'm good with
We
that.
got it.
Oh,
Okay.
well
And you're just
said.
downstairs now.
That was
Yeah.
nice.
All right. So you mentioned academics.
Mm-hmm.
That is obviously a key part of school as well.
Yes.
What is the goal academically in middle school?
Specific to a subject or just in
I
general?
mean, in general, like, if you were talking to a parent who's interested and I mean, what are you hoping for a middle school student to gain by the time that they're done?
We want our kids to think critically. We want them to be able to analyze information, evaluate information, problem solve creatively. That's what we want for our kids. It's not about content anymore. Yes, there's some things that everybody needs to know in terms of content, but the reality is, in most of their pockets is this magic box, right? That's gonna give them the answer to any question that they want, but it won't give them the skills in order to analyze and think critically. And that's what I want more than anything else through middle school, is for them to go into high school prepared and ready to think.
Yeah.
Not just memorize.
Yeah. Point of clarification: in the middle school, those things should not be in their pockets because
This is
Good
true.
point.
we do. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's no phones allowed during the school day in the middle school. Correct?
No phones allowed during the
Okay.
school day. in
That
middle
is
school.
correct.
Which I
so it
think-
should be in the locker.
Yeah, but which I think a lot of our parents and even some of our students actually appreciate.
Yeah.
We made that decision about maybe 6 years ago or
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
and I honestly believe it was the best decision that was made in my tenure here. It got kids off of their phones. It got them playing. It got them talking. I had, in 2 weeks after that, I remember Andre Soha came up to me and said, "Dr. Deveau, I have to say, thank you." And I'm like, "For what, Andre?" He's like, for getting rid of the phones. This is great. All my friends were playing, we're talking, and I was just like, wow, that out of the mouth of an
Yeah.
8th grade boy
Right. And-
was just shocking to me. Not to mention what I've heard from parents and teachers alike. It's just not necessary in school. So really pleased with that decision, and it's
Yeah.
had a great effect.
And he's in our upper school now. I can't wait to tell him he's become the face of no phones at Santa Fe.
Yeah.
He's gonna be
In the middle
thrilled.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I heard he wants to do that in high school.
We'll
That's
have
what
to,
Andre
we'll have to
said.
ask him about that. Okay. Also, we were talking about academics.
Yes.
What else? What are some of the other academic goals?
I mean, Todd really touched on the most important one, which is that our kids, they're learning how to think.
Yeah.
So they're becoming better readers, better writers, hopefully better listeners, which is, a really important skill in our current culture, to be
Yeah.
a good listener. Just a better overall thinker. And for them with social media, TikTok, little blips of information that's coming, there's more and more of a need for them to be able to look at something and think critically about it.
Yeah.
And so our teachers are aware of that changing landscape. It's a hard one to catch, but trying to help our kids be good stewards online with their thinking as well, since we do, we Google everything instead of going to the encyclopedias, at least when I was in school.
What's an encyclopedia?
Yeah, it's this archaic book that is in
I
someone's
had those
attic
too.
somewhere.
I'm not that young anymore. I get it.
Yeah. So really, kids, I think that get excited about. It doesn't have to be every subject, but maybe they're lit up about a particular subject, or they're growing in different subjects. They're seeing. In our school, it's obviously critically important that they are seeing God's design and intention in the different subjects that they're experiencing at Santa Fe. That's a distinctive to experience science. I remember when my daughter was in 6th grade at a different school, and the way that creation and evolution were discussed in class, it was a struggle. It wasn't very balanced, I'll put it that way. And so for us in the middle school to begin to show God's intelligent design through the curriculum is a really, really critical and crucial piece of who we are in the middle school. And it's really important to track back to what we shared with identity formation, because seeing how God is reflecting in you, reflecting in your academics, it's all the whole self. Yeah. And so we're able to speak to that in the middle school, which is super exciting.
I would add, that we are a middle school. That name is intentional. We are not a junior high.
Yeah.
And people use that interchangeably as if it's the same. It's not. Middle school is a really unique time in the kids' development and preparation for high school. So I'd say another academic goal of ours, is to basically give a lot of introduction for the high school. So a lot of the things that we do are very intentional and by design. We have broadcast. Well, that is in preparation for broadcast in high school.
Right.
We have a lot of our electives. If you the marketing, entrepreneurship, and personal finance that I mentioned is actually a preparation for Senior Business Week.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of what we do is designed to introduce things that are later going to be mastered. Life science is an introduction to biology.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it is. And our physical science and chemistry introduction for high school. So while it's not a junior high, it is in a lot of ways an introduction to a lot of the coursework that they're going to see later.
Yeah.
And amazing in its own right. You know how students sometimes say, well, all you say is this is for the next step, or you're preparing me for the next grade. Sure. And we are, and that's intentional. And then it's also fantastic right where it is.
Right.
For
They're
them.
not exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can be both.
Yeah.
So I noticed something too. I mean, you mentioned being this middle step, and you really are, like, academically, I would say, students in the lower school, parents super involved in a lot of the work, or the checking the grades, managing kind of the day-to-day. And then when they get to us freshman year, our assumption is that kids are managing their own school. Mm-hmm. So you have the joy of a lot of those types of transitional things. Mm-hmm. What is that like? And honestly, how do you support parents on that? I mean, I feel like you get so many questions on both ends of that spectrum of, like, how involved am I supposed to be, and when do I let my kid? I mean, what are some of the ways that you guys get to come alongside parents in that transition?
Yeah, we just had a 6th grade coffee, and in it, I talked a little bit about JH Ranch, and one of the philosophies that they have, I think, is really well done and well thought of developmentally for parents, how to parent, right? So, through the elementary years, the parent needs to really be the cop, so to speak, really to keep them safe, to protect and serve, right? That's sort of their role.
Yeah, right.
And when they start to get into middle school, that transitions. You're no longer a cop. You need to start becoming a coach, coming alongside the child, giving that tough love when it's needed, but really encouraging them along the way and giving them as much leash as they can handle. Because there's one 6th grade boy who doesn't need a leash, and another 6th grade boy who
still needs one,
gripped. So that transition from cop to a coach is really important during middle school. And some of them aren't ready for it until 7th or 8th grade, right? And that's normal and natural. All kids are going to be different. When they get into high school and beyond, it switches more toward being a consultant. Yeah. And that's where I am right now with my own kids, with a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old. they don't receive coaching too well. But, when they have something that they need, they'll come to me.
Yeah.
And that's my goal, is to be the best consultant I can be. So that's kind of where we are. But with middle school, it's that transition from cop to coach that is sometimes the biggest challenge for parents, because they're just not ready. They may not be ready for it yet, and that's okay. But we're here to help coach them on how to be a coach.
Yeah. So Kristi, you have a really unique experience to share too, because not only through your time here as an employee, but you worked in public schools for a long time. Your kids were in public schools. I think I know a little bit of the story. Like you weren't always on the private Christian school train.
True.
What was that transition like, and what brought that about, and what have you kind of learned through that?
Thank you. So when my oldest came to the upper school, a lot of thoughts going through my mind, because I never want to be disrespectful to public school. I think it's such an important place.
100%.
Taught in public school for a long time, and we walked across the street to our amazing little elementary school for 6 years with each of our kids, and I'm so grateful for those years. What the distinctive for me when I brought my oldest son here is kind of at the same time I started working in a small capacity in the middle school. And when you work in a middle school, you get to see behind the scenes. So I know the forward-facing part of Santa Fe was attractive, and I liked it, but I just was kind of a public school person. And so when I spent some time with Dr. Deveau, and at the time Michelle Glenn, and then I was in the faculty lounge or workroom, and I began to see behind the scenes. I could not wait to figure out how to get my middle school kids, so I had 2 more coming through, over here. And really the difference was the faculty. The conversations that you hear in the faculty workroom speak a lot to the heart of the school. And the conversations that I heard and the prayers that I heard were incredible. The thing that resonated with me was this idea of I've shared this with Todd too, what's best for kids. That was the essence of the middle school, what's best for kids. And that showed up in the classroom, that showed up on retreat, that showed up with Shisha Bali Hoorah and Baba Ruski, and I continue to see it, and not just in the fun. I mean, it shows up in the everyday, it shows up in the conversations in the faculty workroom, which speaks a lot to a teacher's heart. That's where you know the stuff. Yeah. And the stuff was good. And then watching our faculty through COVID, honestly, the no quit grit and determination to love kids on camera and through online platforms. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And when I compared that to what I saw happening in my neighborhood, again, not a disrespect to other institutions, but with Santa Fe, the people that we could have imploded, and instead we were able to stay connected to the best of our ability with our students. And so I've kind of bunny trailed off, but I think the point is that the essence is what I saw in that little space with my little part-time position. I experienced in huge magnitude through COVID and continue to see every day as our teachers, I mean, they all just were at Catalina Island. They all have little kids and they have families. And what's best for kids is to get out of Dodge and have an experience with the Lord that's outside of this place. Mm-hmm. And so they sacrifice their homes and their schedules and their lesson plans to do that because it's what's best for kids. So for me, that is why I couldn't wait to get my others here, and quite frankly, wished I had done it a bit sooner. So that's kind of my journey.
Yeah, my wife and I had always said that, you know, if we couldn't afford or couldn't make it happen to go to a private school, Christian school for elementary school, I suppose we can make that happen or allow that to happen. But when it comes to middle school, it's non-negotiable. We always felt that for middle school, our kids need to be in a safe Christian environment while they develop who they are. And we're blessed to be able to do that. So fortunately, but you know, with middle school teachers, you can't phone it in. You can't pretend to be a middle school teacher.
Yeah, so true.
You either are or you're not. And we are just blessed to have a team that is just second to none.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I'm not.
Right.
So I mean, but that's it's just
you
kind of, but
acknowledge
it's
that,
kind of
yeah.
neat around here of
Yeah.
like your teachers are just amazing people.
They
and
are.
They can connect with those kids in ways that frankly I couldn't. You know, it's
Yeah.
pretty special to see. So
They can and they want to.
yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
Our kids get to be known in
Yeah.
the middle school, and that's not always the case in larger or maybe less intentional places. So I don't know. Our faculty they're my favorite people. No offense, Mike, you're on the list too.
Oh, listen, hey, no offense
They
taken.
are, and Don, you're on the list. Todd, you're on the list. They are amazing people, and they do such incredible work every day.
So one of the big pieces of transition academically, I think, is around homework. I mean, you know, lower school homework is very different from upper school homework, right? And once again, you're kind of in this middle transitionary period. But why don't you talk a little bit about, because I know you have some personal experience with this idea of homework.
I do.
And why don't you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, my dissertation was actually on best homework practices. So yeah, I have a little bit of experience with it. But homework's not necessarily a horrible thing, but it sure can be if not done well. And so homework, it needs to be meaningful, it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be appropriate, meaning the amount of time. So I mean, any homework that kids are doing at any age group, okay, is going to interfere with home time and family time. We need our kids to be spending time with their family. They are the primary educators of the kids. So whatever homework we give had best be as meaningful and relevant as possible. So, you know, in the middle school anyway, we shoot for about an hour in sixth grade, about 60 minutes, about 10 minutes per grade level. So about 60 minutes, 70, and then 80 maybe in eighth grade. But more importantly, it's what the homework is. And it's certainly not busy work, and it's not just taking away from family time. That's the most important thing.
Well, you two are so uniquely gifted at what you do. We are really blessed to have you. Speaking as someone in the upper school, I am really blessed to have you because, you know, when the kids come to us after 3 years of you, they're ready. And so super grateful. And thank you just for all you're doing to pour into our kids and our community.
Our pleasure.
Can't wait to have the little Sicilianos.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, well, we
Bring
got
'em
a
up.
few years. I can wait. I can wait for them for middle school a little bit. Don't rush me,
I'm
Kristi.
sorry.
Be patient.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys. And thanks to those of you who are listening or watching us. If it's your first time, we do have other episodes available of our Eagle Perspective podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, the video podcasts on YouTube, or anywhere else that podcasts are available. We look forward to seeing you back again soon.